So we can't really base all of our energy policy on it. I know some of us have been saying that for quite a long time, have we not? So much to talk about. Don't forget, as I say, PMQs in less than 2 hours' time. Peter Cobb will be in with us to give us some analysis of that. It's going to be a sticky wicket once again for the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. I'm delighted to say joining me for the whole show there is Claire Pearsall. She regularly does on a Wednesday, former Conservative Government Advisor. And no booing at the back, please. She used to work at the Home Office. Good morning to you.
Morning.
I mean, it was always rubbish even when you were there, wasn't it? Come on.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
There we go.
Absolutely.
I like honest politician or political types.
Why would you say anything otherwise? But no one's done anything about it.
It is, I mean, it is completely absurd. We had John Reid, Labour Home Secretary, 2006, was it, saying that the Home Office is not fit for purpose. There were various bits that were sort of slightly taken away and moved on. But at the end of the day, it's a massive unwieldy, a huge unwieldy department that is clearly utterly incapable. We know that from every Home Secretary who's been in there that it's the civil service are basically working against the policy of the government. Doesn't matter who's in charge, doesn't matter who the Home Secretary is, and they basically will not do the will, certainly, of the people. And the only solution from the government really is to just shout racist, bigot, xenophobe at everybody, far-right activists, etc., tell people, don't post on social media, and then just hope it all goes away. And it's not going away. And I find it extraordinary. We are in an economic crisis. We are, 4 or 5 weeks away from a budget right now, which is going to be devastating for our economy. Once again, just like the last one, we got a Chancellor who has not a clue what she is doing. She's as bad at writing budgets as she is at writing an honest CV, for goodness sake. So, and we are facing serious economic crisis. There is a lot of talk from people who know their stuff that we are in territory that most people simply do not grasp how bad it is and how bad it could be. And, one little thing, we could be in seriously dangerous territory. And yet, the biggest issue, by the way, people are still waiting years sometimes for operations, life-saving operations for cancer treatment and the like. And yet the biggest topic again and again is migrants, migrant crime, migrant crossings, the cost of housing migrants, failure to deport them. That is quite telling. Now, is that because the nasty, racist, right-wing, bigoted media is stirring it up and people are being stirred up? Or is it because it is now such a big, huge, massive, enormous problem that we cannot ignore it anymore?
It's exactly that. We can't ignore it. We shouldn't have been ignoring it for the last decade. But we have, and successive governments have always tried to do something about the number of people coming into the country and the workforce and everything else. But what has happened is that we are letting a lot of people into the country. We're letting them stay. We're not removing them. We're not removing them when we know where they're from, and the fact is they don't have leave to remain. We still don't get rid of them. So I don't understand why it's been allowed to get to this point, despite everybody shouting. And you're right, the minute you start pointing out that certain crimes are undertaken by certain groups of people, you just called a far-right racist bigot, you need to get back in your box, everybody's welcome. Yeah. Well, no, everybody is not welcome.
Or, sort of the left-wing media spew out some completely skewed numbers about, for instance, on the grooming gangs. The majority of sex crimes are not committed by Pakistani and Muslim men. No one said they were. The grooming gangs, that was the issue. But also, again, the rate of criminality, particularly sex and violent crimes, among people from arriving, legally or illegally, largely illegally it would appear, from certain countries is off the scale. Yeah. It's off the scale. Unfortunately, these two countries where we are mostly seeing people arriving by boat, why are they getting these boats and paying channel smugglers? Because they wouldn't be allowed in otherwise. Precisely. Because we don't want them. And we don't want them. We don't want them to arrive. We don't want them to stay. We don't want to pay for them. We want them to leave. And the government seems totally incapable of that, unless it hits the front page as any individual. And then they, do. And this is the issue. People are saying, we're done now. I have said for at least a year, this whole, let's get migrants out of hotels thing ain't going to work. They're not going to get them out of hotels and send them home. No. They all send them back to France. They're going to get them out of hotels and put them in military barracks with the gates wide open. They're going to put them into local housing, competing with local families for that housing. They're going to put, and also being dispersed. So how the hell do we know who these people are and where they are? That's not the solution. And the government solution, we talked about this on air yesterday, is basically, can everyone just shut up? Just shut up. Yeah. Stop talking about it. Yeah. But calling everyone names, doesn't work anymore because the facts are before us. You see these videos, you see what's going on, you know the facts, you can see the convictions in the courts. This week alone, so we've got, Epping Migrant who had to be deported because, after committing his crime, sexually assaulted a 14-year-old. We had, we've got this Afghan, okay, he's a suspect. We need to be very clear. He hasn't been charged with a crime, but, there was a crime, it was committed. This is a man who's been arrested. He's an Afghan, given asylum. I can't wait to see the documentation on that, on how he won asylum and what his case was. And then we've had another case, and again, there's so many. I can't even remember the names of a migrant who stabbed to death with a screwdriver a worker actually in the hostel where he was living. So that's just in the last few days.
Yeah,
the stories that have been in the news,
and there are more. There was other stabbings that have taken place in London, which the suspect yet to be identified. And you just sort of think, because the details are so lacking, full well what the story is going to come out.
Certainly it's very noticeable. After the Hadush Kebatu and the Southport attacks, we did get that information out very quickly yesterday that this was a man the suspect who was an asylum seeker. He was from Afghanistan. He'd been granted asylum, so he was here legally. But again, we're still paying for him. We're still paying for him.
Do you know the bizarre thing is when the Home Office confirmed that, yes, indeed, he did have asylum in the United Kingdom, but they were very quick to point out that he wasn't in hotel accommodation.
Yeah.
Well, so what?
Yeah.
The fact is that he's still here. He probably shouldn't be, and we're paying for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just mind-blowing. And again, I advise you not to look at the video, to be honest with you, of the stabbing of this poor man, this dog walker, Wayne Broadhurst, by all accounts, really popular local figure.
Yeah.
It's just horrific. But, but it does kind of, tell you something. And again, I don't think with social media now you can shut a lot of these stories down.
No.
Because although we're very limited, in fact, people online don't realise how limited they are in what you can do. And again, you really, really, really do need to stick to principles of justice and innocent until proven guilty. It might work out for you one day, all of us one day. But people can see it before their eyes, and there are lots of witnesses to these things. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, she's tough words over the Epping sex offender being deported and just vile crimes and the like. We know now that Kebatu was detained and then released in Ethiopia. He's arrived in Ethiopia on a plane overnight, but he's now been released in Ethiopia. He only served 3.5 months. That was including on remand.
Yeah, but this is the problem.
I'm surprised he got sent to jail at all, actually, given that it was... no, but that's the thing. As terrifying it would have been for the 14-year-old schoolgirl in a school uniform being sexually assaulted by him, this wasn't the worst sex offence.
No.
That's the reality on the scale of things that you would be terrified of happening to your 14-year-old daughter. Yeah. This is probably the least of your worries. But I'm amazed, frankly, he even got sentenced to any time behind bars at all, given how lax our justice system is now. Yeah,
so was I, and I think this was a lot to do with the pressure put on by the local community that said we aren't going to stand up for this, and it was a prolonged set of protests that were taking place.
But again, why do things only happen if people are protesting? Yeah. Why does someone only get deported? Because let's face it, the Prime Minister's got PMQs. And he's going to have to face questions on this. And he had a really tough one on the grooming gang scandal last week. And he's going to have another tough one on this. And he's got not a leg to stand on. And frankly, with all due respect, Prime Minister, let me advise you right now, because I know you're probably not watching or listening, but you'd probably learn a lot more than you do if you did. Put down The Guardian, stop watching the BBC, you might learn something here. Don't say, well, this all happened under the Tories. Yeah, they're useless. And that's why they're no longer in power. Read the room, but blame it all on the Tories. We know they were useless. That's why we got rid of them. You saying they're to blame for stuff that's happened under your watch? Sorry, mate, not going to fly. But the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is basically facing a backlash, we're told, over plans to house up to 900 migrants in army barracks, concerned about the impact on local communities, particularly one of them's actually, in a town. And this whole thing, they're going to shut down these asylum hotels, but everyone's going, yeah, but we don't want these people anywhere. That's the issue. The solution the government has isn't actually a solution. However, we have seen this crackdown. This was obviously their big announcement for the week. Government crackdown on illegal working, takeaways, food delivery, beauty salons, car washes. Home Office data showed there were 8,232 arrests of illegal workers in the year to September. It's up 63% on the last year. It's the highest rate on record. 11,000 raids in immigration enforcement, which sounds like a lot, but is probably not, as many as there should be, because clearly an awful lot of these people are able to work illegally and they just go back to afterwards. But the key thing here is these people, they're working illegally. They're not supposed to be here. Like, what happens to them? Are they all instantly put on a plane? No. We carry on paying for them. They probably all at that point instantly claim asylum, don't they? But the key thing is, you need tough punishments. And you worked in the Home Office, you need tough punishments of the people who employ them. Yeah. And it needs to be not a fine, it needs to be imprisonment. Yes. It needs to be, there's no sodding way I'm going to employ you without a national insurance number and passport or visa showing you can work. Otherwise, I'm going to have 10 years behind bars. That's the only way that you stop this from happening.
It absolutely is. In my day, the fine was, I think, between 10 and 20,000. It has gone up. Yeah. But to a company, that's neither here nor there when they can just get another worker coming in the following week and it needs another 10 more after that. But the wording of the legislation is always really bad because it said could face a prison sentence, could have a fine.
And up to.
Yeah.
No,
it's like, no, should.
No, really, really simple. But again, do you have a photocopy? I remember, my daughter was getting jobs, over the summer. Yeah. Genuinely had to produce passport, national insurance, not even just a number, she had to produce the actual document. Yes. And then she, travelled out, they were so strict about it. So, come on, that's what good employers, not that they were a particularly good employer, I have to say, even that was for a 0 hours contract. But, it's not hard. I had, when I had childcare, when I first went back to work, I had to see the passports of the nannies. I need to know where are you from? No, precisely. You're not. So you're not EU. Well, then I can't employ you, and you're not even allowed to legally work here.
And that's the problem. And you're right. And my son's had the same thing. He's nearly 17. He's had to produce his passport because that was the only identification he had. He was asking me for his birth certificate because they needed that as a backup.
Yeah,
17, born in London.
If only he had a digital ID, then it would all be fine. But then there wouldn't be any illegal workers, and there wouldn't be any.
But it would be a fine and pleasant land.
I think we've just missed a trick there. If only Tony Blair he'd been right all along, could have had digital ID, and none of this would have happened.
Morning,
okay,
Tony.
Please, morning, Tony. do just check on the sarcasm font on your screen. But anyway, let's for goodness me, let's talk about Keir Starmer there. Bit of a problem. Poll's not looking good. I know, we're all shocked. But we mentioned on the show, he came out yesterday, this Ipsos survey found the Reform UK leader was seen as a better candidate to be in charge of the country by 33% of voters over Keir Starmer, who's only got 30%. 1 in 3 people think Keir Starmer's the best person to run the country. Shake your heads, people, shake your heads. Even allowing for immediate family, I don't even understand. I don't even understand how they've got to that number. But basically, there's no doubt at all. There's trust in handling the economy. That's a big issue. The Tories actually come out ahead on that amazingly still. Yeah. But actually, who you think would be a good leader is often there are 2 or 3 questions that are very indicative of how someone is going to vote. So they might say, I'm going to vote for this party, but actually if they think X is a better leader, they're more likely to vote for them on the day when they've got their pencil hovered over the voting slip. So what do you make of that poll?
Well, unsurprising. Normally the Prime Minister of the day is particularly unpopular at any given point because they're making decisions that are going to upset at least 80% of the country at any given time. Well, that's beating our record. The Conservatives were, at least we had sort of 14 years before everybody absolutely hated us. So
we definitely started hating you before 14 years.
I'd like to think in my little world that everyone loved us for a lot longer. But to be honest, if you were given the choice of would you vote for Sir Keir Starmer or would you vote for a pigeon, I would suggest that the pigeon would win in that poll too.
I'm probably better at PMQs as well, to be fair. Well, also we're looking at Labour down to just 17% of support of the party, down 3 percentage points from last week, and basically putting Keir Starmer's party on the same level as the Tories, just 1 point ahead of the Greens at 16% and 2 points ahead of the Lib Dems. Yeah. The Greens, they are seeing a resurgence. They're getting a lot of play. There's a lot of sort of left-wing Labour people sort of moving to the Greens under Zach Polanski, whose views are almost without exception utterly insane. I mean, and dangerous, I would say. People have to understand. It's one of those fascinating things, and I think this is really important, something that Nigel Farage needs to do, and I think also the Tories as well, which is to reframe the debate, because, we're talking about this Overton window and where people are on things. So you can get a Labour Home Secretary saying some of the things Shabana Mahmood says. I mean, the world has changed. But it's this idea that somehow Nigel Farage or Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick are extremists. No. People who think that everyone should be on welfare and that you should, tax people's, taxing people's houses because they've got a better house than you, that you should basically impoverish the company with mad green energy ideas, that you should be telling children they're born in the wrong body and offering, girls that they can have the right to, cut their breasts off at 16 and take hormone blockers. All of the, and that you should have open borders and just hand out money to anyone who wants to come to this country, wherever they're from. That's the extreme view. Yes. Saying we'd like to have, safety on our streets and safe borders and our children to be protected and not propagandised, and we'd like to have cheap and affordable energy so businesses can grow, we can afford to heat our homes and old people don't die because they're scared of putting the second bar on fire in the middle of winter. No, that's not an extremist view. These are moderate mainstream views. I'm constantly told, you're far right or you're even right wing. I don't even think I'm right wing. I think I'm mainstream moderate. I think my views represent the views of the majority of people in this country, and they are absolutely. I want people who are disabled, who can't work temporarily, to be given all the help they can. I want help for families and but no, I don't think that half the population should be on welfare. And I don't think people should go to prison when they commit crime. I think our borders should be safe. These are not extremist views, and they're being portrayed on the BBC and in a lot of the media as extremist right-wing views. I meet lots of left-wing people who agree with all those things.
Yes, and that's the real difficulty about it, because they're just normal, basic standards for living. Yeah. I don't think you can put that as either far right, far left, or in the middle. They are just basic standards. The rise of the Greens is quite frightening in some respects, because they are so incredibly left-wing, and I don't think people realise.
No,
they think they're a nice, fluffy sort of save the polar bears. They're not. They really are not. They don't want anybody to have any wealth. They don't want people to have property.
No freedom.
No freedom whatsoever. But young people are flocking to them. And my son
I've said this many times. Young people are idiots.
Yes.
Hi, young people. No, they really are. They're not in the real world.
No, they're not. And my son said that all he sees when he's on TikTok are the Green Party adverts, a few of Jeremy Corbyn's outfit, name yet to be... Yes, Jespala. And sometimes the Liberal Democrats.
Yep.
And that's what he sees. So he said, and they keep coming up. He doesn't search them out, but that's who they're targeting.
Yep. They absolutely know what they're doing. Yeah. Luckily, young people don't bother voting.
Exactly.
So you can lower their voting age to 16 as much as you want. They don't bother voting, but they're being propagandised in our schools, which is another reason why I don't want 16, 17-year-olds to vote. That and the fact that they're kids.
Yes.
If I can give you a curfew about what time you can come in and you're on my payroll, you ain't an adult. It's really that simple.
It's
really. If I get to say what you can and can't eat, you're on the you're not an adult. But anyway, can we just talk? We should, but Hurricane Melissa hitting Jamaica as a Category 5 storm, going down again, now heading to Cuba now, making landfall in Cuba, Category 3. But we are talking about huge winds. I mean, just no structures possibly be able to withstand them. We've got some 500,000 people in Jamaica without power still. We've got some pictures coming out, but there isn't that much, and it's only just getting light, and we've seen some horrific damage. There are some 25,000 tourists there. I think 7,000 of them are Brits. And there ain't going to be a flight out until at least tomorrow at the earliest, people being rescued. I mean, just horrific damage done. But as always, of course, the loonies get on with the climate change. There are hurricanes, and there will always be hurricanes. There's no evidence that hurricanes have increased in number or in ferocity since the Industrial Revolution. There isn't any evidence of that, but they'll still claim it.
Oh, of course they will. And this was from a meteorological point of view, the most spectacular thing. I mean, I've been following it for about a week. I'm one of those sad individuals that really likes extreme weather.
And you're not in it.
as long as I'm not in it. And I feel incredibly sorry for anybody that's been caught up in this, because there are going to be people that lose everything.
This is a poor country, there's a lot of poor people.
Absolutely, and they have been hit so hard. 185-mile-an-hour winds when it was coming across. And I was watching the press conference yesterday with the Jamaican ministers. They're so much better at this than we are. They really are.
They only had to do it last year as well. So,
but they were so matter of fact, and you couldn't imagine Keir Starmer or Yvette Cooper standing up there having that kind of
I am just
attitude.
waiting to be told at some point in The Guardian or the BBC this week that it's all our fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, if it wasn't for us in the Industrial Revolution or something to do with colonialism...
Too many flags.
It's definitely our problem. It's definitely, but my heart goes out to ordinary Jamaicans desperately trying to, keep their homes and keep safe, because goodness knows what that death toll might be. Hopefully people got to safe ground and people are safe, and tourists as well. But, our heart absolutely goes out, and I've got even more worries for Cuba. I've been to Cuba, and that is not a country well. But that said, the totalitarian states can often weirdly handle some of these things better. Who knows? No, but that's the thing. Because you do what you're told, because otherwise there is a penalty. But very, very sad news. We'll keep you posted on any developments as they emerge from that horrific hurricane damage.